And I don't,
Okay. We're talking with Tony Cosimano, who was an Army veteran during the 60s and 70s during the Vietnam War, when that uh, period was a very difficult time for veterans in the U.S. because it was largely an unpopular war. So, uh, Tony, I understand that you were a helicopter pilot during those years.
that's correct, Peter.
So,
I was.
what did you fly?
I flew the Huey B model, which was the second model that was brought over to Vietnam as a gunship.
Okay. Did you do any medical evacuation with that craft?
No, we did not. We had there was a separate unit that would call dust off that would do the air evacuations.
All right. So your mission was largely to support ground troops, right?
When I was there, which was very early in the war, there were no American ground troops.
Wow.
Our support was completely to the ARVIN, to the Army of the Republic of Vietnam. And they were excellent soldiers. We transported them and we supported them with our gunships.
When you returned home from the war, what kind of issues did you face?
I returned home in September of 1966. And of course, any reception by any of the veterans that were coming back from Vietnam was not the greatest. Let's put it like that.
Yeah. We are reminded about some of those issues today when veterans are coming home from deployment and they have found it difficult to reintegrate themselves into society and to come up with jobs or living arrangements that are conducive to their thriving and becoming productive citizens. So how did you go from a helicopter pilot during the war to whatever field you chose?
Well, when I came home, I had applied. Like when I came home, I had another year of service and taught as an instructor in Fort Rucker, Alabama, and then was discharged after I spent my 3.5 years after flight school. We were received. It was an interesting time for sure. The war, Tet Offensive had not occurred yet, so there was still some thought that maybe if there was any quotes or unquotes of winning the war, that there was still that possibility. So the tide had not turned. And then, of course, all of the other things that happened here in the United States, the Kent University shootings and so on. So it was not a good time to be an ex-serviceman. My transition was wonderful, though. I was very fortunate.
How were you able to do that? What kinds of assistance did you receive?
Well, back then, helicopter pilots were still rather a novelty, and I had applied for the airlines, United and Eastern Airlines at the time. And the fall of '66, both those airlines, all the airlines were on strike. So I took a temporary job as a helicopter pilot out of Baltimore, Maryland, and came north to just north of New York City in Spring Valley and operated out of there for a company for 2 years prior to starting my own company at that same facility.
Wow. So what kinds of rotary wing aircraft did you fly then?
Well, I started off with, there's probably every one of the makes that you could come with. I started off with Hiller in flight school and transitioned to the Bell Hueys, and then we flew some of the Sikorsky models, H-34s, and so on. And coming home after the war, I had Bell, there were H-13 military models, but there are 47 models in civilian life with a bubble, like the MASH helicopter.
Okay. Nowadays, when veterans come home from deployment, they face a lot of different challenges. And just for some, it's very, very difficult because they either haven't had the training that they can apply to the commercial aviation segment, in your case, or they are damaged because of PTSD issues that affect them and their medical conditions. And, there are lots of other challenges that they face. So how do you think a program like the Rumshock Veterans Tiny Village in Port Jervis will help those?
Well, as a veteran of Vietnam, I know very well what PTSD is and all of the aspects of coming. If you're talking about that particular transition, that's still a work in progress and process. And you're absolutely right. It's the transition. Just a side note: the helicopter industry in general, for example, in the United States, has a transition program for Army, Air Force, all of the military helicopter pilots transitioning into civilian work, and we have a very vibrant program with the Helicopter Association of America, International Helicopter Association. It is.
That sounds like a unique program.
To get back to your question of Rumshock, I mean, I have been an advocate for veterans for whatever I could do for as long as I've been an adult. But I think this is one of the nicer programs that has the possibility of really bringing in folks that are in need for housing and for community and for guidance. And it certainly appears to me that that's what Rumshock is all about.
Well, we're trying. There are elements to the program that we haven't seen elsewhere in support of veterans. So we're hoping that this combination of employment and canine companionship and transportation and housing will work out for everybody, not just the veterans, but those in the community as well.
Absolutely, and all of it is a plus for the community, I hope and think.
Right. Well, Tony, I want to thank you for your support and certainly for your service to this country. And we really appreciate your sharing the insight that you had during your days in the Army back in the 60s. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Peter. Nice to be with you.